This conference will now be recorded.
Ready to roll? Okay, welcome everybody to Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 meeting of the Monterey Select Board here in Town Hall, beautiful downtown Bay. I am Stephen White, Chair, present.
Justin Maycook, present.
John Weingold, present remotely.
And John Wongold is present. Hey, John, where have you been all these times?
Outside the country.
I see you've been outside the country for 3 months. Wow,
For a
that's
month.
a pretty long time. Well, welcome back to the country. And let's let's continue, shall we? I'd like to actually start the meeting, Justin, if it's okay with you, to say that this board and the finance committee had a very nice meeting yesterday. I was very professional. We got through a lot of issues, and it's nice to see two boards functioning well together. So I'd like to thank the finance committee chair Michelle Miller for hosting a very good meeting yesterday. Hi, Mickey.
Hi, Eric.
Now we're slated to have a discussion with Adam Chait. Is Adam on here? Is that the C on? Adam, are you on the meeting?
So there's two that might still be signing in.
Oh, all right. We'll give him a minute or two. The purpose of the discussion with Adam Chait is to discuss the costs involved to get to 100% or 99.9% coverage for the town of Monterey. And we want to get it from the horse's mouth. So Adam agreed to show up at the board meeting and have a discussion with him.
Is that the last 8 or 9 houses that we're talking about for the 100%?
Yeah, I believe there are 9 houses. One of them is Ray Cotting's house, which is impossible, and it's already being served by Otis. So it's really 8 of the 9 houses. But it may not be all 8. It's up. Adam is going to has to let us know what he can do and what he can't do. Is he?
So maybe you can just talk about the 2 emails while you're waiting.
Okay. Hi, Susan. Well, and the 2 emails. All right, Justin, why don't you, since they were to you, why don't you?
So I got a contact at at Charter Spectrum, which serves both New Marlboro and Tyringham. And all of our houses that are not served, that are not included in the contract, there are many that haven't been built out to yet, but all the ones that are not included in the contract, other than Coddington, one option maybe would be to serve them from New Marlboro and Tyringham. So I just reached out to him, because he's the regional coordinator, and he said that they need a franchise to wire houses in Monterey. So at that point, I didn't know that much about a franchise or whatnot, so I reached out to Michael Baldino, who works for the state, and just told him our situation, and he actually is supposedly going to follow up with the Department of Telecommunications and Cable, and then get back to us. And then we'll take it from there. But then I'm also interested to hear what Adam Chait has to say, because that is another option for many of the houses, but one way or another, it'd be good to figure out a plan.
Yeah, was there more?
Well, one question that Michael asked that I didn't feel equipped to answer, because the board had decided that I would reach out and get some information, but one question he asked is the town considering spending municipal ARPA dollars from the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund to reach these 9 homes? That's a question that Michael asked, and I didn't respond because I don't know if the board is planning on spending ARPA money, on this. But I also don't think it's, I don't think whether or not we can be served by Spectrum will hinge on whether we have ARPA money, whether it's ARPA money necessarily. But I don't know. So that's one option, but obviously getting served from Fiber Connect would be another option, depending on prices and stuff.
Well, so this sounds similar to what, because I had a discussion with them, I guess, a couple of years ago, and Spectrum said the same thing, well, you need a, you get a finance agreement, a franchise agreement, excuse me. And what I told them then is, do you have a franchise agreement with New Marlboro? And they said, yes. I said, well, if you just, would you be willing to send us a copy of that franchise agreement? We'll send it to council, and if it's okay, we'll, if council says we can enter into it, we'll enter into it. But they never did, maybe it takes more than just signing an agreement, maybe it's, so I don't, it's not an area that I've got any kind of expertise on. And,
Okay.
but their spectrum is notoriously difficult, they're difficult to talk to. I don't know if you had a problem with them. It took forever for me to even get anywhere with them.
Yeah, and I didn't really get much of anywhere, and I tried to inquire about whether they would need a franchise if we could just do broadband, not cable TV, and he said, we need a franchise. So,
Okay, good. So Adam.
Good evening.
Hey,
I'll ask one.
Sorry?
Justin, you mentioned, Charter, Spectrum by Charter?
yeah, it was a merge, yeah.
There was a merger? I missed that. How long ago was that?
A couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
That one time, okay.
Hey, Adam,
Hi.
well, so, do you know why do you know why we've asked you here?
Not exactly. I believe this is in regards to like River Road and Corsair.
Okay, so basically, and Justin, feel free to jump in here, basically basically, we're trying to determine how much it would cost to have Fiber Connect provide services to, we're assuming would be 8 of the 9 houses that are not going to be served in Monterey, and and I'm considering Ray Coddington's house and the Otis Border, not a non-issue. So that's primarily what we're trying to get, sort of a dollar amount and hopefully, and also kind of a general idea of how long that would take.
Right. So the challenge is to come up through Hartsville. Well, all right. So let me address the one up in Terringham Road. There are, I believe, roughly 15 poles past Heron Pond to get to that one house, and theoretically, I don't think it will require a lot of make ready, but we wouldn't know until we actually applied to the polls to know what the utilities would require for make ready. For the 7 down on Corsair and River Road, we have the same issue. However, there's a lot more poles because they're served out of Hartsville. So we'd have to come down 57 into Hartsville and up the pole route in order to use the existing route. And I believe there's something like 75 poles, memory serves, to get up those 2 streets. The alternative would be to set poles from the southernmost poles on the north end of both those streets and continue them down toward the border until we meet up with the existing pole line. That could happen sooner and is probably cheaper, but would require easements and pole sets all along the road. And then the other house, which I don't think is on this list at all, is the one out on Sandusfield Road. That's off the end of Cronk Road, which again, we would need to do a pole line that would run and continue from the last pole, I think pole 5 on Cronk Road out and across Sandusfield.
So, if you can get us, I mean, would it be possible to get us kind of a generalized breakdown of, so it sounds like it's really 3 distinct projects. Carringham Road, Corsair Road, and then the one Sandusfield Road. If you can get us kind of a generalized idea of what that would look like in cost. We're not gonna, look, we're not gonna hold you to it, I mean, but we need to get a kind of a general idea. It's gonna cost, $50,000 to $50,000, we need to sort of have, make some intelligent or semi-intelligent conclusions. So, and obviously we'd want to do it the least expensive possible. I mean, it sounds like it'd be very expensive to go the 75 pole route if you can, and that's considered. I mean, that obviously it's considering if you do get the if you would get the easements and how many poles you'd have to set for those folks.
Right. So on January 6th, I did send in a paragraph which had some rough guesses on costs. The problem with anything dealing with the existing pole routes, we can't get a true cost until we actually apply, and there's a cost to apply the poles. And we also estimated the cost to extend River and Corsair to fill in the gap between the 2 pole lines. As far as the one on Sandusfield Road, they lack power as well. So the best course there would be to let National Grid build the route down Cronk Road. And then we could attach to those poles. In speaking with National Grid, they're obviously very interested in getting the service down to that customer. Because they would be new poles, there would be no make ready for us to attach to those poles. We would just have to apply to them and then we can attach to them. So if they could continue that pole route to that house out on Sandusfield Road, then we would be able to get broadband there without any issue.
So that's really just the Sheringham Road houses and the Corsair houses.
Well, the Cronk Road, I know it was several years ago that National Grid had a pole hearing to try to extend the Cronk Road pole line, and it was met with some resistance. I don't know if that sentiment has changed. I think National Grid would be more than happy to go for another pole hearing, and we'd be happy to join them in support. That would take care of that house. The one up on the Terringham line, there again, we would have to apply to the poles. We can make a guess, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of work up there because there's not a lot of infrastructure going that way. But we have been, in recent years, we've been a little surprised at what Verizon will or will not agree to do. And every time that they don't agree to lower or don't agree to let us on there as is, then it usually is met with a lot of costs. On the River Road, Corsair Road side, I would say extending the pole line is probably the most economical way to do it. But again, we'd have to have a pole hearing, and the town would have to grant the easements on the right of way to continue to pull down the edge of that road.
So you think the numbers that you gave us in January 6th are pretty much, were they broken down?
Question. Adam, if I'm not mistaken, Spectrum has run fiber line, north from Hartsville on Chlorashire and Hatchery. If they already received a make ready for their fiber line, would you need to also receive another make ready? Or would you be able to run that line more easily?
We would have to apply to the poles, and depending on how much room there is, there may or may not be make ready. It's really irrelevant whether they're on there or not. If there's one level of telephone and charter on a 45-foot pole, then there should be room. But if they squeeze them on a 30-foot pole, then they may require that we upgrade a pole. But charter only goes to the border, so if we continued the route south out of down Chlorashire and River Road, the attachments that they have in Hartsville are irrelevant because we wouldn't be going down that far.
So the amount that we have on the January 6th email,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but it's about 270,000.
We had, so based on what we've been seeing in Make Ready, I think the 78 poles to get through Hartsville, we estimated about 211,000. And then we had the pole routes. If we did them as continuations, then it would be somewhere between 55 and 60 is the guess. Now that's assuming, this is all done, this is desktop modeling, so that assumes that, let's see, River Road is just under 3,000 feet and Chlorashire is just under 1,500 feet. So at 150-foot spans, you're talking about 28 poles total. So that's where that price comes from. If there's trees or a sharp, bend that we have to work around and some of the spans are smaller, it may add a pole or two, but it's not going to generate a tremendous cost.
okay. So generally in the neighborhood of 211,000, plus or minus, or plus 50, so around 250 in general,
Yeah.
in general sense. Terrific.
Yeah, I mean, our hope would be that the poles don't need a lot of work or that we can negotiate them down to something reasonable, but based on what we've been seeing as initial estimates, that's the number we'd have to put out there.
And while we have you on the line over here, what can you give us a brief update of where you are with?
So on the remainder right now, we're still negotiating with Verizon. Verizon pushed make ready estimates north of like 1.3 million. And so we've been trying to schedule walkouts with them to review the polls. Other areas where we've done walkouts and reviewed polls, we've gotten the make ready reduced considerably. National Grid, I think, had somewhere around a dozen poles to replace, and in Verizon's design, it was closer to 60 or something, and that just generated a tremendous amount of cost.
So, percentage-wise for this of the build out, where are you in general?
Let's see.
Somebody asked me that question. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer it.
I have that info. Just give me a second to pull it up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So based on the attachment A, the agreement, we are 60% complete. But as expected, Beartown and New Marlborough Road have become a sort of a sticking point on the make ready. So that's the sections we're trying to negotiate right now, so we can get those wrapped up and start getting the work going on those areas.
Well, try to do it before mud season.
I wish I have no control over it. Verizon seems to work at their own pace. According to the sheets, we had 333 homes left. We've now passed 200 of them, so there's 133 homes remaining.
Okay, that's good. That's great. So you're telling me approximately 133 homes are remaining of the ones that were part of the original.
Yeah, and the majority of those are New Marlboro and Beartown. And then, we still have Norwalk Acres, Mount Hunger, Swan, Brett, lower parts. Let's see.
So if Verizon and National Grid cooperate and the weather goes well and COVID goes away and the Easter Bunny comes, do you think when do you think, do you think 2022 is the year that you are complete?
I certainly hope so. I mean, once we get building, yeah, that won't be a problem. It's just waiting for them to get the make ready done and released. But once it's in our control, we'll get it done pretty quick.
Yeah. Okay.
We've already been trying to acquire fiber. I mean, right now some of the fiber is over a year out, but I think we've got supply to cover these projects.
Right.
But that's probably the only other sticking point, which we're hoping will not be a problem. But supply chain issues have been miserable. I mean, between stuff that's been going on for the last 2 years and just the tremendous amount of fiber build out across the country, supply has been tough on fiber.
Yeah, I can understand that. Absolutely. All right, Hill, you have a question?
Hi, Adam, this is Hillel, how are you?
Yep, good.
I'm a little confused, and I'm being a little sarcastic now. I've heard the governor twice in the last 2 or 3 months say that Massachusetts, all small towns in Massachusetts are all wired up and ready to go. Are you laughing at me, Adam? You know, I'm a very sensitive guy.
He's laughing at
I'm
the
not
government.
laughing. I'm laughing at the statement because there's a lot of towns still not wired up.
No, I'm one of them, you know, and you know that I am. He just said it in the State address about a week ago.
Okay.
And everyone laughed that all of Massachusetts, all the small towns in Massachusetts are all wired up. And I'm not pointing at you about this, but that's an informational gap. And is the governor's office doing anything to help you expedite with National Grid and Verizon?
No.
Can the governor's office do anything to expedite
I
with
don't know.
Verizon?
That I don't know. They haven't reached out.
Because I reached out to Signatelli, and I asked him to reach out. This is about almost a year now to National Grid, and he guaranteed that he would do it. And now I'm just not understanding what all these hiccups are.
I've never heard from Smitty or the governor's office on any assistance with Make Ready. The MBI has offered to include us in their Thursday meetings, but no offense to the MBI, but that seems to actually slow things down. We've had better success with National Grid and Verizon, just having one-on-one. We have a meeting with National Grid every Tuesday.
Every what?
I have a meeting with National Grid every Tuesday. Keep pushing these things along and try to see where we're at. National Grid is kind of just as frustrated with Verizon as we are.
I just know from my experience with Verizon and the cell tower, they move at their own pace. They could they seem to could care less. No matter what you did, we tried, nice, something nice to them. We went through the state senator and committee, and they just move. They could care less. I mean, they're not under any kind of. They don't feel like they're under any kind of pressure. So,
I'm just not getting, we don't need to really spend a lot of time. They don't care about copper, they don't care about this, what do they care?
you pay your bill on time.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. They've been, the folks in the tag group are overwhelmed and overworked, and they just don't really seem to care. So we keep pestering them, and we just keep pushing forward. And I can tell you that this week, National Grid asked me about applications that were licensed back in 2016 that Verizon came back and they still haven't licensed from 2016. So that was 7 years ago now.
Six.
It's almost pathetic, but that's what it is, and that's what we have to deal with. So,
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Justin, have any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam, for coming. Thank you for the updates and the general
Sure.
idea of costs.
if I may ask, because I came in a little late, on the agenda that you had got an email from the MBI.
Yes, I reached out to MBI and Charter Spectrum to see what the options were for wiring in homes not included on the Fiber Connect, that were excluded from the Fiber Connect contract, but bordered in Marlboro.
Okay, was there any response, or have you not gotten to that yet?
Yeah, John Marr from Spectrum Charter said that he needs a franchise to wire those homes on Portia and River Road. I asked him if it could be just broadband and not TV, cable TV, and he still responded that they need a franchise to wire any homes in Monterey. Michael Baldino from MBI said he's aware of our situation and is gonna get back to us, so. We just wanted to consider all the options to try and make fiber accessible to everybody in town.
Okay. Just so you know, I mean, you keep saying fiber, they're not really equal products though. What Spectrum offers is a different product than what we offer.
Right. I guess we just want to get everybody connected. But
I understand, but it wouldn't be a proper service.
Right. Well, the bottom line is, without a franchise agreement, and actually even with a franchise agreement, it doesn't sound like they're interested in Monterey at all. So, so that's it. So we'll be knocking on your door. If there's anything that we can do to assist you, Adam, let us know.
I appreciate that. After we have a walkout with Verizon, we'll know better if there's workarounds we need to consider, or if we can get their make ready and do something reasonable.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to the next item. All right, let's move on to the next item. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caleb Stone, Southern Berkshire Volunteer Ambulance. I see that you're on. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah. So, I apologize. Actually, I'm at my other job today, so that's why I'm not able to be there in person, or I have a different background tonight.
That's perfectly fine.
I take it everyone's had a chance, or everyone on the select board had, in finance committee had a chance to read the letter that I sent out.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to, I think one of the last select boards I haven't had a chance to meet with in person yet, and so I guess I'll start with going over a little bit myself. So those that didn't know, I've been with Southern Berkshire since 2013. I was not one of the original medics, but I was 6 months after they went paramedic level. I was one that joined. I was on the county flag card that was down there as well. So my full-time job is actually for Agawam Fire Department, but I do manage Southern Berkshire on my off time, I guess what we're going to call it. Um, since getting my position and Bill resigning from his position, we made quite a few changes that are starting to positively affect the squad. Obviously, the biggest ones we kind of brought our pay scales up to kind of what the rest of the county has been getting. So we were able to hopefully attract new talent. We do have a current EMT class going on, to hopefully get some more people on our roster. Just as where the entire country is, we're just unfortunately running what we call minimum staffing. So I really don't have, if someone calls out, I really don't have a whole lot of people that are available to fill in those spots. But we've seemed to be meeting our demand okay. Obviously, with COVID, there's a huge surge of just transfer requests. So we did our best to meet those as well as meeting the 901 commitment we have as well. So the other things we did too, we redid our budget, as sure you guys saw that. We also have a new auditing company with Adelson and Company out of Pittsfield. They're our new auditing company. So, um, so I've gotten quite a bit of funding from the foundation so far. They've helped me out quite a bit with a lot of upgrades that were needed at the base from technology standpoint, as well as just overall base upgrades have helped out. We've implemented a new billing structure to hopefully that way there we can be more financially resolved. And which is what we've been trying to do the entire time, is not have to ask these towns for these subsidies. So I'm pretty happy to say that for our fiscal year budget, we run January 1st to December. For this year here, 2022, we are anticipating not needing a subsidy, I would call it, for the town to cover our operating costs. However, just one of the lasting things we have is that our trucks are getting old and breaking down, and that is the one thing that was not budgeted for by the previous director, or not budgeted well enough for, and so that's why we're asking for the ARPA funds for the outright purchase of a new ambulance to replace our aging fleet. Right now, I don't have two ambulances that are the same maker manufacturer, so it's getting hard to work on them because one truck goes here, one truck goes there. We've been lucky that Joe's Mobile Repair from Egremont has been able to work on most of our trucks, so we've been lucky in that aspect. But I guess that's kind of the basis of what I have for the select board finance committee. So I guess, does anyone have specific questions I can answer for them?
Hi, Caleb. Thanks for presenting to us. You mentioned that you got a new auditing firm, and it
Yes.
sounds like you haven't received the audit yet.
They have just finished up our 2020 audit. I believe they're finishing it very shortly. We're just doing a couple of last general journal entries. My bookkeeper and Adelson's are working on that, and that should be done shortly.
I think, obviously an ambulance is a great investment for the community. I think it would be good if the town could view the audit if possible, to know where our money is going. But it's, I think it's great that you figured out your operating expenses and got that under control.
Yeah, there's been a couple of things that helped out with that. We went back with our billing company, A&B Billing out of Kentucky. Went back with them. We made some adjustments to the way that they help us bill, because they bill for many different types of companies. There's a general medical biller they can specialize in ambulance billing. We changed a couple things, and we actually were able to up our return rate. So now we're getting, for what we actually can bill out and actually allowed to bill, we're getting 90% return on that money. So that's helped out hugely. We were something like 82%. We're down to around 90% now, which has helped out quite a bit.
So, just to, because Justin actually had the exact same thing written down. So, would your most recent audit reflect this new payment structure, or this new payment receipt structure?
So we've made some changes to try to describe this best way. So my background is I'm not a huge finance guy. I am mostly operations. So bear with me a little on some of the terminology. So we've changed the way that our books and structure look on the books, so the towns are more able to see. So we built out a certain amount of money. We have our contractual allowances, and now you'll be able to see those contractual allowances right into the audit itself. So you'll be able to see like that kind of stuff there. You'll be able to. I don't necessarily see the increase in the billing. I can't guarantee that you'll be able to see it easily as much as you'll see that the percentage is higher. And the fact that we don't have to ask, hopefully going forward, not have to ask for a subsidy to help subsidize what we're doing. And we hope to continue that trend as well. But as I've said to every select board so far, is that I plan to be much more transparent with all the select boards. So if we do start getting the trouble, you guys will know sooner than later. Not like, hey, in a month we're going to close down because I don't have funding. You guys will know well ahead that something's changed or anything like that.
So, frankly, one of the I've been on the board the last 2 years. The board's been hesitant to meet the total requests because they haven't, because they weren't privy to some of the financial information from the, from your company.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, and so, although we did make the townspeople actually did approve of $5,000 each year because we want to give you something.
Mm-hmm.
But our at that time, we understood also that some towns did participate, and some towns sometimes gave you guys some money. Some towns did not. We're always interested in paying our fair share. We don't want to get more than our fair. We don't want to we don't want to get more than our fair share, but we don't want to pay more
Absolutely.
than what we get, right? So every dollar counts
Absolutely.
in a small town. And even with ARPA monies, even though they're a great gift, we have other uses that are very demanding in town also for those funds. So we want to be very careful on how we spend every dollar of those funds. I guess my question is the same question I believe that we asked of your predecessor last time. Is first of all, have you received commitments from all the towns on the list for the full assessments that you're requesting?
So Alford and Egremont have given me letters of commitment saying that as long as all the towns agree to pay the share that's outlined in the letter that we sent out, that they will give me that they have committed for the ARPA funding. Great Barrington is, I believe, meeting on it very shortly. I have to talk to Mark Perwinski, and then Sheffield is meeting shortly on it as well on their agenda. And the last one I have is Mount Washington. They have received a letter. I just have not heard anything back from them yet. But they've usually always had. I've always never had a problem in the past with the request for them.
So, I believe your organization had a problem. Didn't get full funding from Great Barrington last year. I don't know Sheffield, but those are the two bigger towns. I think that and Justin, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we would want to see that there's what kind of commitment there is from the larger towns before we make a commitment. I know it sounds like who's going to go first, but the larger towns obviously are going to get a lot more ARPA funds, and obviously there's more wiggle room there for them, and again for us, it's the, it's the dollars. We're always chasing the dollars over here because, we use everything up. Uh, how quickly do you think you're gonna hear back from Great Barrington and Sheffield?
I believe they're meeting about either this week or next week, so I should know very shortly. From the brief conversations I've had, or unofficial conversations I've had with both the administrators from those towns, they don't foresee any problem with their approval. I just have not received an official select board approval from them.
We have a member of the audience who would like to ask a question.
How much is being requested about that?
Yeah.
$17,979.
Yep.
Each year we've been given, each year the request has been about $10,000 and we've been giving $5,000. So we've been giving basically 50% of the request. This year is a little bit different because the money wouldn't be raised and appropriated. Well, the request is that it's not raised and appropriated, that it comes out of the funds that we receive for
Everybody wants them.
Somebody's ringing the dinner bell. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
Ooh, somebody's got
it's
one.
considered free money, but you've all paid for it in your taxes.
Mhm.
Caleb, in your letter, you mentioned that you're considering municipal representation on the board. What does your
Mhm.
board makeup currently look like? And, what might municipal representation look like?
So I will say that the municipal representation is something I'll not be able to give you a 100% guarantee what it's going to look like. I'll say that is because it's actually the board of directors working on the new bylaws that has that new representation. But from what I understand from them, is that the one that we're being prepared to vote on shortly is going to have two municipal representatives that can be elected. They'll be elected by the actual towns that we serve, so they can select who comes onto that. So right now our board is a 9-member board, so it's supposed to be three members from the squad itself that are not full-time paid members. They can be part-time, but they just can't be full-time paid members. It's three. So there's also, and from that there's specialties. So like Charlie Berger brings in our public service. We have Lou Ogiani who does our legal representative. We have a representative from Fairview itself, and then there are 2 business members, and there's a third person that I cannot remember what that third person is right now.
I have a question for Mr. Stone.
Sure.
What's the status of the uncollected bills? I think last year it was like $600,000. Has any progress been made on collecting any of the unpaid bills?
So are we talking specifically about the ones that are in collections themselves?
Correct. Yeah.
We've made some progress on them, and just unfortunately, a lot of them are either people that have either unable to pay or unable to find a way to get them to pay.
Mhm.
So, unfortunately, I believe that's where our quote unquote bad debt comes from. Is so when I write off bad debt at the end of each year, that's typically what that bad debt is usually done. We usually try to collect for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, we do this. I believe it's laws. We're just no longer allowed to pursue that anymore.
Okay. My second question is, do you have any data as to the amount of calls you've done to Monterey in the last 3 years for each year?
I do actually. Yep, I can pull that up anytime you guys like. I can actually send that in a report too. I can give you like a report of how many calls you've had, how many transports, how many refusals. I can pull that up if you guys would like.
I would like it.
I will send it to I believe Melissa then.
Okay.
Or I can do it right now if you want actually.
Sure. Just can you see the for last year how many runs?
Yep. Just give me a second to log in. forgive me for asking. I'm not the greatest on zip codes. Monterey zip code, please.
01245.
Thank you. I am terrible at zip codes. Come on, internet. All right. I apologize. Sorry.
If you can't locate it, you can include it in the report,
Sure.
Yeah.
because we're not gonna be,
I gotta
I
keep,
don't believe we're.
I gotta keep going. I know. I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right. You don't have to apologize.
Actually, here it is for you. So I had 76 calls to Monterey. 76% of them were transport, 17% no transport, and 7% was other. So it's either cancel or just assist.
Okay. So 50 calls, basically 52. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Terrific. So again, I think, yeah.
One last question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Caleb. Just about the name change, from Southern Berkshire Volunteer Ambulance Service. I see that's still the website and other things. Has there been an official name change, and is there thinking behind that, to Southern Berkshire Ambulance?
So we will be switching over to that shortly. So our official name, we are still technically Southern Berkshire Volunteer Ambulance Squad Incorporated, and then we have a DBA as Southern Berkshire Ambulance. So I will be getting that switched over shortly. Just on unfortunately, my long list of things to do, and I was kind of putting a little more power into making sure the budget was set before I did that.
No worries. I was just curious. I was just curious about that.
Yeah. So our name is, you'll see as Southern Berkshire Ambulance. Our parent name is still Southern Berkshire Volunteer Ambulance Squad.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so basically, I'd like to find out about what the two towns are officially doing, or what the other towns are officially doing. We'd like a copy of your latest audit, and then we'll continue the discussion about
Okay.
it.
Yep, I will try to get that audit to you as soon as I can. I know it's not quite finished yet, so it would be unofficial at the moment.
I can't believe we're going to be the only town asking for it. So.
So far, you have been the only town that have asked for it so far.
Really? We're so smart here in Monterey.
I think a lot of towns are just happy to hear that we had managed to balance our budget, and other than the truck.
Well, again, we want to do as much due diligence as we possibly can without being, intrusive.
Absolutely, no.
But yeah, but we're very, anyway, we want to hear what the others, we want to hear what the other towns do. So, thank you very much, and we'll reach out if we have any more questions.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's move on, shall we? And obviously, Melissa, you're going to distribute any information you get from them to board members, and there's probably also information that the finance committee would probably want to take a look at as well, but that's up to them. Okay, so a bit of old business, review transportation committee, interested parties, and discuss making appointments. There seems to be 4 individuals that have requested to be on the committee that I understand we're gonna try to seat 3 people. Is that correct?
That was what we agreed upon last week.
Okay, the 4 people are Eileen Marcus, Susan Cooper, Dave Gilmore, and Ken Bassler. Each person or has filled out an application, right? So it's my understanding that when we discussed this committee, that we were trying to get voices from outside the operational part of the transfer station. We're not including a select board member or anybody from the town. And the reason why I'm saying this is that while I think that that Dave Gilmore has a lot of information to give, I don't know if his presence actually on the committee is what we generally had in mind. I don't want to dissuade him from participating, but my recommendation would be to sit the three people in town that are not a current employee of the transfer station. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think if Dave is able to attend meetings and answer operational questions, that would be great, because we do need that perspective. But it might make sense if we appoint the other three as the voting members of the committee. But I absolutely think Dave's input would be welcome and appreciated, because he knows day to day what happens there. Also, not appointing him would prevent any potential conflict. I know that he's planning on retiring soon, but maybe that's just the easiest thing to do, but I think I would like, to still invite him to the meetings, anyone can go to the meetings, but invite him, especially because, it's good to see that he's leaving, but he wants to, make a smooth transition, and no one's gonna be able to answer some of the questions like he would be able to, other than Beth.
Yeah.
So, because they're so.
Yeah, it brings me back to when,
I think it's an insult to have him on the committee and not be able to vote. He's not gonna show up to meetings. He can't vote. That's an insult, I think.
Susan?
I can't speak to whether he would be willing to vote or not. I can say, though, that I completely understand the perspective you both expressed. As a potential member of the committee, I'd be very grateful to have him present and to hear what he has to say. I think that someone who actively works there is going to have a lot of valuable information. I totally agree with Justin, and I can't speak for the other two folks that have thrown their hats in, but I know I would value his presence. Whether he votes or not, I would value his presence.
No?
You just heard the ambulance, what was his name, Caleb, talk about 9 people on the board, and at least 3 are people that work there. So there's nothing wrong with having someone who works with the organization on this committee.
Right, well, I don't think either one of us saying there's something wrong with it. I think that we're saying that if we have a 3-person, we decide to have a 3-person board initially, and 3 of the 4, and 3 people.
Have no
there's 3 people,
expertise.
and then you have the current employee of the place that you're making decisions about, and which may include determining who's gonna, or making recommendations for hiring. And here's the thing. So this is the way I think about it. When I think about it, when I was on the board when Sean took over for the highway highway department from Maynard. And even though Maynard was retiring and then ultimately moved out of town, he was there, he was constantly informing Sean and the highway department on making recommendations on what they should, on how they should handle things. He was a good font of information. Although he wasn't, part of the decision-making process anymore, I think he was glad to participate. And I think that generally, especially if you're retiring from a position, that if you're retiring from a position, you don't want to, ultimately you don't want to be involved in the day-to-day activities of it, certainly. So I think the opposite. I don't think they would be insulted at all, because we would be encouraging him to participate, give his opinion.
Well, I think, except that he applied to be on the committee, and so he showed interest, and I think the idea of having someone who, there'd be no one better really to serve on the committee than someone who really knows how it works, and I do want to make sure that he's a part of it and that he shows up, and I'm afraid, we always say, and I even said it tonight, well, if you don't get appointed to the committee, it's still open meeting, you can still show up, but it's not the same. So I think, Dave's been such a good employee for the town and for the transfer station, and I think we should try to appoint him to the committee.
Isn't Dave moving out of town? Isn't that part of his plan?
Not yet.
Not yet.
They're a long way from moving.
One other easy way to solve this for people for 3 spots is just that three people did apply by the time that we asked them to. So that would be a way to do it without getting into
Except the person that you would be eliminating has probably the most knowledge about the transfer station.
Right, and that's,
Right, and so I would say Dave is gonna be helpful with input, but he doesn't need to be a voting member. I think it's important to make the 3 people that are voting have a fresh perspective on there and aren't coming in with, well, it's been done this way for this long, it has to continue to be this way. I think Eileen, Susan, and Ken will come in with a fresh perspective on how to address the staffing issues that we have with input from those of us that are employees and may see things a little differently. But they're not gonna be as emotional about it.
well, and also this, they're not voting, they're not gonna be hiring these people, they're just gonna be making recommendations. The board, will then decide if they wanna use the recommendations, they don't wanna use the recommendations. So the voting part of it is really, I don't see it as a real important component of this committee. It's more to gather the information and to provide the board with as much information and suggestions as possible. But I don't say, that if somebody has a good suggestion, but the other people have a different idea, that somehow it's gonna get voted off the island. So I don't look at it as it's certainly not gonna be a policy board, it's gonna be making a suggestion to the select board. Personally, and I have to agree with Melissa about, especially talking about Mr. Bassler, who actually was instrumental in the design and implementation of the transfer station, him and Scott Jensen. And there's nobody that knows more about what its original idea was and what changes needed to be made as things progress. And the good thing is he's been out of it for enough time that I think he still has got perspective. And then we were talking about, Susan not to embarrass you, Susan, but, I mean, she's got some very, obviously has some very good ideas and is articulate. And I believe that Eileen has got some experience in doing in the hiring of individuals, since we are talking about hiring of individuals. And I know that Ken has hired individuals. Susan got some hiring experience. Doesn't have any hiring experience. So I'm concerned that that you have that I think these three people of the four would be my first choice. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with having Dave on it, or I would be open to expanding that committee. But
Well, I don't wanna leave, Dave, after all of his years of service to the town, he applied to be on the committee, and I don't want to leave him off of it. And if that, requires expanding the committee size, I'm certainly open to it, because
so I would make a
it
recommendation.
just doesn't feel right.
Susan's got her hand up.
Okay.
Hi, Susan.
I just want to, I have no problem at all with, I think you're both on the right track. I don't have a problem with making the committee larger. I just want to say that perhaps I misunderstand, but it seems like the idea behind this is to try to come up with more than one idea. And perhaps the voting thing maybe sort of not as big an issue, because I would imagine our role would be to lay out the various ideas that come up that we think have promise, and the pros and cons of them, so that you guys can make the decision, because we're not actually choosing. We're just trying to give you options. So I don't even think I think even a good idea, if there are dissenting opinions, for those both to be presented, even if we say, well, two of us preferred this one and one of us preferred that one, there's even the Supreme Court puts out dissenting opinions. In this case, we're giving you options. So I'm not sure who votes what is as important as it would be in some other circumstances.
So then why not make Ken the non-voting member?
Why not make all four people voting members, John? I
That's
don't,
true, too.
my point is that the vote itself is immaterial. It's the
Okay,
idea,
yeah.
presentation that's important.
I agree.
So I would motion to appoint Eileen Marcus, Susan Cooper, Dave Gilmore, and Ken Dazzler to the Transfer Station Committee through the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, 2022.
I second that. And the Vice President of the United States shall break the tie if there's a vote. But there's not going to be a vote. So I second that. So I second that. I vote yes. And
Yes.
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 Vote
Yes.
yeah. There's 4 people on it. Welcome them all. Do we have to? By the way, do we have to make a motion to amend this committee? No. Don't want to get in trouble.
Well, maybe you should ask John,
With the
maybe he's
Attorney
gonna
General.
file an open meeting law complaint, then maybe you should.
Yeah, John, are you gonna contact the Attorney General? Because we originally had a 3-person board, not a 4-person board. We're kind of changing the rules halfway. Maybe?
But it's
Maybe?
an advisory committee we created, so we can manipulate it however we wish, I think.
I don't know, there's lots of people with pencils out there.
Do you guys need to give how do we work out when we will first meet? Do you choose that for us? Do we choose it? Are you appointing a chair? Do we choose a chair? How does that work?
So I think we're gonna, we'll
When I send you the appointment letters, I'll send out some information on that.
Great, thank you.
Right, and they're gonna have to get sworn in?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to get sworn in. Pass an ethics test. Okay. Terrific. So town administrator items.
as I distributed, an amendments to the, cash receipts policy, as requested by the treasurer and accountant. So I'm hoping you all had a chance to review them and will approve them.
Why are there,
So it seemed to me that the major change was instead of just the accountant auditing the receipt process, it's the accountant and the independent auditor.
Right. And then just a few changes to how they're uploaded and where the monies are placed.
Justin, you know what Vadar is?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, good. Perfect, so then I move that we approve, that we approve the cash receipt policy as amended.
Second,
Vote yes?
yes.
Yes.
So the next thing is, I also sent you some information, from our accountant and treasurer. One of the suggestions in one of the audits is that we need to create an OPEB fund, which is another post-employment benefits. And she sent me the information. I just want to contact council to find out, exactly what the wording on the warrant should be and just verify a few things that the accountant said.
So that's gonna be, so it'll be a separate line item?
So what will end up happening is the current retiree stabilization fund will get transferred into there, and that's where the retirement benefits will go into.
Oh.
Going forward.
We're gonna get essentially reclassified.
It just needs to be created under this, general law, chapter 32B, section 20 and 20A.
Okay, so, I move that we allow Melissa to get permission from council to make a recommendation, to verify that this is the proper way of doing it.
Second,
So yes?
yes.
Yes. Yes.
One fee update,
So yes, I wasn't sure if I was gonna have, the updates, but then one of them I'd like to discuss tonight. I had asked you guys previously about contacting about the, HR manager funds that we have and whether we could use them to have our handbook updated. And as you can see, he said that, if the accountant is comfortable with it, he would find it to be a valid use of the funds, as it would be a cost incidental and related to the hiring of a shared manager. So, if you guys agree, I'll present it to the finance committee next and make sure that they don't have any issues. And I'm working on a couple other quotes, and if everybody agrees, then I'll give you the quotes and you can move forward with just the updating of our handbook until we're able to get the shared HR.
So the accountant already
The
said
accountant
it.
already said, okay,
in a written, you got this in writing from the accountant.
And what
Or
are
from
the,
the attorney.
from the attorney.
what are the quotes coming in around?
I've only gotten one yet, one at 5,500, I'm waiting to hear back from another one.
And are they aware of our budget when they're sending us a price?
They were not,
They were not, okay. And that would be to make a recommended, basically rewriting the whole handbook,
correct,
including
Make sure it's
any
legal.
attachments?
making sure it's legally compliant.
Like the attached policies would also be involved in everything?
That I don't know, I didn't mention policies, I just mentioned the handbook.
Okay. I'm just thinking like.
Lawyers are rewriting the handbook?
I'm sorry?
The lawyers rewriting the handbook?
No, this is a professional HR firm.
I'm just thinking like I think like the drug and alcohol policy and other things like that, I would imagine that could all be one. I don't know.
Well, if it's a professional firm, they'll give us some guidance on how to approach it. I mean, it wouldn't be we wouldn't hire anybody.
Well, I'm not saying it all needs to be one, but I'd like to get all of the policies reviewed if we're gonna go through the process of it, I'd imagine. I just wanna make sure we know what we're saying.
Okay, so that, yes, be as specific as you can, Melissa.
Yep.
Make sure that that's gonna be part of the deal.
So you guys would be comfortable with the use of those funds for that?
Yeah, I mean, once we see a specific, or for me, once we see specific quotes and contracts and everything.
So
And I
the,
have no problem with it, we discussed it at the last meeting,
Yeah,
I've got no problem.
so the other items I gave you, from council, I think you should probably take and review, it was with regards to the Conservation Commission request to
Yeah,
use $38,000.
mhm.
And I can summarize it real quick for you if you'd like, but,
My only,
I'd like.
you know, yeah,
You
so
should
I'll have to,
summarize it for the public.
a copy will be attached to the, minutes.
Yeah, I'd like to get up to speed, like we did.
I think the public
I'm
should know
just wondering-
what's going on.
Okay, so basically, the Conservation Commission was incorrect and they can't use the funds for what they were trying to.
I'm just curious, I guess, what the funds can ultimately be used for.
So I believe he gives you the Mass General Law there and states in one of the paragraphs what it can be used for. But I suggest you take your time and read it and I can put it on the agenda for next week.
Because it is my understanding, it's not, it is, however the money is spent, it's gonna be a Conservation Commission decision, right, not a select board decision?
Right.
Okay.
But as far as this particular request, when you wanna do something like that, the property has to be in the name of the town, and that land is not in the name of the town.
Okay, yeah, I'll review
Renewal, item number 2, renewable energy working group appointments. These represent, we already approved a number of folks, didn't we?
Nope,
We had
just
just
give them a cat.
done Peter, and then we got 12 other applications, but then he whittled it down within the group. I would,
So now he's whittled it down to 4 people, we're basically gonna be spitting out groups full of 4.
It's
well,
five.
we were,
It's five.
The fifth.
we had agreed on 5, and we had gotten a lot, and we considered different options, and he said he'd get back to us.
Okay.
I would motion to appoint Chris Hayden, Peter Grillish, Rob Hoops, and John Krasinski until the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, 2022. To that renewable energy working group.
So I'll second that. And I vote yes.
Yes.
I'll abstain because I wasn't at the last meeting.
Item number 3, fire department appointment, Felix Carroll. So, it's up to you if you want to participate in this discussion at all.
Yeah, I don't think this relates to my financial status.
Only if you're gonna share a locker with him.
And
All right, so I would like to make the appointment.
my only question is this an appointment without an end date?
Correct.
As they all are currently in the fire department.
And do we have, is that, what, are appointments without end dates, why do some have end dates and others don't?
Because some have laws that require them to be for a specific term and others do not. Like your highway employees, they don't require.
It probably went back to, what they decided in 1950, before any of us were born,
Excuse me?
except for, I'm trying to be nice here. So, but it's not inconsistent with, I think that's the key, is it inconsistent with what has been done in the past? Certainly if the board would like to have a discussion with the chief.
Well, not so much with the chief, but could we ask town council just to put a written opinion? I'm sure it's something that's pretty standard and he's aware of. That he could just say, yes, this is a standard thing, or no, this is not a standard thing. I'd just like to see it as a legal matter. It seems to me to be a legal matter. And I understand that we've done it first a little while here, but, could we,
How about I ask him which ones require appointment terms? I'll give him our list and ask him which ones require.
well, I would just ask him to speak to appointments without an end date and what he thinks from his legal perspective.
Okay, so what departments are that, is it other than highway and fire?
Library,
Uh,
um,
Are the part-timers don't have an
parks are
end date?
elected,
No, I'm talking about for police,
police are required by law to be,
even the part-timers?
yes.
Anyways, that's all. I mean, I know it's something we've been done for some time now and we haven't gotten sued, but I noticed it and I wanted to
Not
ask
yet.
the lawyer to speak to it. That's all.
I think it's a good
So-
idea. I second that. Good idea.
There was actually no motion on the floor, we're still having a discussion, but no, we know where you stand there. So that's fine, that's fine. We can certainly do that. I would bet that the council will say,
Well, I don't know.
what have you done in the past?
Well, I don't know if there's anything we can do at this point. If someone's appointed for life, I don't know that there's anything we can do, but if it's not the right, if he comes back and says you should discontinue that practice that invites issues, I'd like to know that, you know.
Well, I don't believe, so you want to be very careful with terminology here. I don't believe anybody's appointed for life. These are not tenured appointments. These are just appointments with no specific end date, but it doesn't mean that they have the right to remain in that position until they fall over and die.
Well, I don't know how it works. I don't know how it
So
works.
there are tenured appointments and there are non-tenured appointments. These are not tenured appointments, these are just, these organizations have not added end dates. All right, so we'll get some clarity on that. In the meantime, did we finish the,
No one appointed Felix Carroll to the.
so I would like to make a motion to appoint Felix Carroll to the Monterey Fire Department.
Second,
I vote yes.
yes.
I vote no. We don't know the answer to the question, so.
Alright, okay. So what question are we asking council?
So the
I
question we're
would
gonna ask.
motion to ask council to speak to the, sorry, I'm forming a sentence as I'm
sorry.
writing on the fly, but to speak to the practice of appointments without an MD. And inform him that it is a practice that we have been doing and ask him what he thinks about it from his perspective as a lawyer.
Then get an opinion in writing?
Yeah, so actually, we're gonna want him to be a little bit more specific, because if he says, I wouldn't recommend it, because a lot of attorneys love to run the line there, you can say, well, I wouldn't recommend it. It doesn't mean it's not a legal way of doing it, he just wouldn't recommend it. So I think you have to be more specific and say, is it required, is it not required?
Well, I think I would like to know the answer to both questions. Is it legal? And does he recommend it? Because you're right, they're two different questions, but it would be helpful for us to know the answer to both. And it sounds like they may not be required by law, but I would like to see a written opinion, because I may, you know, every time we make one of these appointments, it's without an end date, so.
Sure.
I would motion, for those questions, both those questions. Is it legal and do you recommend it?
and may we continue the process, if it is. I would just have them clarify if you can continue.
Right, well,
You said to be clear, so.
yeah, well, it could be what his answer is, because if it's not, it's not legal,
he doesn't know
then
what
we're
it
going
is.
to have to,
Then what do we do going forward? Yeah, sure.
exactly, so, yeah, exactly. Okay. What's up, you'll draft that letter? Special municipal employee status.
So Chris Blair asked for the Conservation Commission to be designated as special municipal employees. Everyone on the select board now is a special municipal employee, just because we're a select board member in a small town, but shall I just read his letter?
Why not?
Sure.
Oh, dear select board, thank you for your recent appointment to the Conservation Commission. We look forward to providing reasonable and timely service to the citizens of Monterey. I'm asking that you make a resolution and accept it to grant special municipal employee status on the members of the Conservation Commission. The definition of a special municipal employee is under Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 1, attached. The reason for the special municipal employee status is under Mass General Law, Chapter 268, Section 17, attached. Essentially, no municipal employee may act as agent with any other town department, in addition to not acting as agent for others before one's own department or board. I am unable to file for a plumbing permit or a building permit as I sit on the Concom. However, if I am designated as a SME, a special municipal employee, I am able to perform my personal work duties except any that come before the Concom. We had asked for and then granted the status some time ago when I sat on the Concom. Please provide the status for the Concom membership at your earliest convenience and send me documentation that it has been granted. Thank you, Christopher Blair.
So that's my question. I was under something that once you establish them as special municipal employees, that every,
They're new.
What?
They're newly appointed.
no, but I'm saying that so it's not that you have to do it for each new appointee, it's not that the position, so you're now, because,
I would just do whatever he asked. He
Okay.
obviously looked into it.
So I've had a little bit of back and forth with Chris about this because I thought it was interesting. I knew that my status as a special municipal employee on the select board and a disclosure and request of the other members of the select board is what allows me to continue to be employed with the fire department. So I'm somewhat familiar with special municipal employment. But I read through what Chris sent us and I'm confused by something he said. Because he said I'm unable to file for a plumbing permit or a building permit as I sit on the Concom. But in the Mass General Law, he sent us the last sentence of Chapter 268A, Section 17. It says this section shall not prevent a municipal employee from applying on behalf of anyone for a building, electrical, wiring, plumbing, gas fitting, or septic system permit, nor from receiving compensation in relation to any such permit, unless such employee is employed by or provides services to the permit granting agency or an agency that regulates the activities of the permit granting agency. And so I followed up with Chris, and then he sent me something from the Ethics Commission. But then again, in this thing that he sent me from the Ethics Commission, I read this. A municipal employee may always represent his own personal interests, even before his own municipal agency or board, on the same terms and conditions that other similarly situated members of the public would be allowed to do so. A municipal employee may also apply for building and related permits on behalf of someone else and be paid for doing so, unless he works for the permitting agency or an agency which regulates the permitting agency. So I think what Chris thinks special municipal employee may do is not what it does, and I believe he's already able to do what he wants to do, which is to file for a plumbing permit or a building permit as he's on the Concom, And I see that both from the Master and the Law he sent us and from the ethics that he sent to me when we were following up speaking about it.
Right.
So I don't think that this is necessary in this case, and we don't seem to fully understand the ramifications either, because I agree with you, Steve, I think it's about the position, not the employee. And I'm not in favor of appointing the Conservation Commission special municipal employees at this time for those reasons, because I don't think we fully understand it, and it seems to me what Chris wants to do for multiple sources, including the law itself, he is already able to do. Sorry for going on.
No, actually, I think you hit the nail on the head. Because this individuals had to be appointed as special employees, we would have had to go through this for us and for other folks. Can we do this? I would, since we don't, I'll join you in saying that I don't fully understand what what would occur if we made it a special town employee, special municipal employee. So can we get a clarification from council, that whether it stays, it's whoever's in the position gets, so if the position was that, or, and you become part of that position, are you already in it, or do you have to be named it? And the other thing is, what is the granting, what grants, what reasoning would we have to, if he's not already a special municipal employee, what reasoning would we have to appoint him if indeed his problem is already, it's not a problem?
I don't see the sense in the lawyers Justin just read the law. The law says exactly, the lawyer's going to say the same thing. I mean, it's a waste of
No,
I don't know.
actually, John, if you
What
listen.
if I follow up with Chris, and, because I've been having this discussion with him, and at first I just had this, and I haven't really been able to touch base with him since I've seen this second place where it says he can do what he wants to do. And I'll follow up with him, and if he still is concerned, then I'll put it on the agenda for next week.
The question is, Melissa, are Concom members special municipal employees?
I believe those
No,
are filed
they're
with
not.
the clerk.
I don't know.
We'd have to find the designation that was filed.
The only thing that I do know is that if you're on the select board in a town of under 10,000, you are automatically a special.
Considered, right, you're automatically considered it.
And then we could do it, we could appoint other people as special municipal employees at our discretion. But I think if Chris reads this and says, okay, I can do what I thought I needed to do without anything further, then I think maybe it's not a concern at this moment.
Okay, so I move that, that you follow up with Chris,
I'll follow up with Chris, yeah.
or I, we don't even have to make a motion. Okay, open meeting law complaint.
Alright.
So, so I'm not really sure, it appears that the select board received an open meeting law complaint from John Silbert, but it says select board, but it also has me in it, so I don't know, maybe I'm getting two open meeting law complaints. Anyway, there's an open meeting law complaint form filed by John Silbert on January 31st, 2022. And the complaint states the following: please find an OML complaint against the Monterey Select Board. Okay, so I just answered that question. Against the Monterey Select Board alleging violations of the law. The Select Board has not approved the executive session minutes of their October 4th, 2021 meeting. In an email dated January 4th, 2022, the Division of Open Government informed public officials of the following OML requirements. The open meeting law and regulations do not distinguish between, quote, regular, unquote, meetings and types of meetings such as workshops or public hearings for purposes of counting the next 3 meetings and determining the timely approval of minutes. Even executive session minutes must be approved within the next 30 days or 3 meetings of a public body, whichever is later, regardless of whether any other executive sessions are planned during that time frame. Approval of executive session minutes is a separate and unrelated obligation from the requirement that executive session minutes is a separate, is a separate and unrelated obligation from the requirement that executive session minutes be periodically reviewed to determine whether they should be released to the public. This initial approval of executive session minutes is to approve the minutes as an accurate record of what occurred at a particular executive session. Does not mean that the minutes are approved for release to the public. The select board, new paragraph, the select board has not approved the minutes of October 4th, 2021 meeting. This is a violation of the OML as described above. And then the question is, what action do you want the public body to take in response to your complaint? And the response is approve the minutes of the select board executive session of October 4th, 2021. And it's signed by John Silbert on January 31st, 2022. So here is the answer.
The answer or response?
What's the difference between an answer and response?
Well, an answer could be from the attorney.
The answer could be to a question.
Right.
So this
It's a response.
is the response.
Right.
But it doesn't actually include the answer of the attorney.
Why don't we just ask the attorney?
Well, actually, because this is very easy to respond to. So let's start, shall we?
Not if the AG's office says I violated the open meeting law based on your interpretation. No, I'd rather have the answer from the attorney.
So I'm trying to respond to an open meeting law complaint, Mr. Weingold. If you insist on interrupting me, I'll have you muted. Let me continue. February 9th, 2022, open meeting law complaint, dear Mr. Silbert. On 10/4/2021, an executive session was held by the Monterey Select Board. The matters discussed at the 10/4/2021 executive session are part of an active and ongoing, i.e. not yet resolved investigation by professional investigators by contract, interviews with individuals, and discussions of matters that were part of the aforementioned executive session. The Select Board looked to the OML statute, and I quote, executive session minutes must be approved in a timely manner, just like open session minutes. Executive session minutes may be withheld from disclosure as long as publication may defeat the lawful purposes of the executive session, but no longer. And that's General Law 30A 22F. The Select Board also sought the opinion of Town Council as to their recommendation for the dissemination of minutes for this executive session. The advice received was, 1, executive session minutes of an active and ongoing investigation may be sequestered while the investigation is taking place. 2, once the investigation has concluded, the minutes are to be made available to the public. On January 12th, 2022, the complainant, Mr. Silbert, asked for a copy of the minutes of 10/4/2021. On January 12th, 2022, the Select Board discussed the matter in open session, and it was reiterated that the investigation was still active and ongoing. As advised by counsel, it would not be made public until after the investigation was concluded. This decision of the Select Board was then sent directly to Mr. Silbert by email on January 19th, 2022, copy enclosed. Mr. Silbert had 2 weeks and 2 public meetings to reach out to the Select Board for clarification of this email. He did not. Mr. Silbert has full knowledge that the investigation is still active and ongoing. There is belief that this OML is unrelated to Mr. Silbert's desire for public knowledge. at a select board meeting a few days prior to this complaint, an unrelated request by Mr. Silbert was turned down. Mr. Silbert is not happy, and with this action, as seems to be his pattern, unhappiness with the select board results in an open meeting law complaint. To conclude, the 10/4/2021 minutes of the executive session will be made available to the public at the conclusion of the active and ongoing investigation, estimated time February 2022. And Mr. Silbert is already aware of this. It would be our suggestion that Mr. Silbert refrain from complicating your mission and ours to satisfy his need to demonstrate how unhappy he is with the Monterey Select Board and Finance Committee, as Mr. Silbert has written 2 OML complaints against them on 1/28/22 and 2/8/22. And it's signed, well, you're looking to get signatures from the board, I'm certainly going to sign it. And by the way, since Mr. Weingold brought it up, here is the actual email sent to John Silbert on January 19th, 2022. Mr. Silbert, the select board has authorized me in public session on 1/12/22 to inform you that on advice of counsel and in accordance with our understanding of the OML statute, minutes involving active and or open investigations will not be disseminated to the public until at the conclusion of the investigation. Be assured that following the conclusion of the investigation, all sequestered minutes will be immediately released. Thank you, Stephen White, Chair, Monterey Select Board. So that is was the response, answer?
It's a response.
So
my one question is, do we are we able to send this to council? So I know some open meeting law complaints we've worked with council on and some we have not. Am I correct on that?
actually, most of them we haven't because they've been, what's the proper word?
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Like that's I think that's
Well, I think that it would be prudent to ask council to help us work on a response if we are able to. How long do you have to respond to an open meeting law complaint?
So
Is
the
it
response,
10 business days?
so the response has to come from the party that was filed against. And we've already received response from council that said that they're essentially quoted in this. So if council tells us, we reached out to council and council said, this is the way you need to do it. And we tell that person who's filing the report, in this case, Mrs. Silbert, if you tell Mrs. Silbert, listen, council has said we have to do it this way. And since obviously Mrs. Silbert is got to be more intelligent than council, he knows more, because he's saying, no, council's wrong. And so I'm still going to file a complaint, even though council said you could do it. We said we could do it. Everybody's doing it. It's okay for everybody, with the exception of John Silbert. Justin?
How long do you have to respond to an open meeting law complaint?
14 days.
14 calendar days?
I think it's
14 business
14.
days.
Steve, I just want to, it seemed to me that the focus of this particular letter was not on him receiving the minutes,
Correct.
but on the select board approving them. And my question is, you can't release something you didn't approve, but did you approve the minutes?
We can't
You can
approve any
approve them,
minutes.
you should approve them.
Right.
Well,
You're
okay,
supposed to
just
approve
making
them.
a suggestion to approve the minutes because no one else can hear it anyway. But you could absolutely make an executive session to approve the minutes for an October meeting, for heaven's sake. You don't
Exactly. That's
release
what he's,
them, but you can approve them.
of course. And that's what he's complaining about. He doesn't want the minutes. He wants us to follow the law and approve the minutes.
So the question is this.
Wait, we have 14, this just in, we have 14 business days to respond to this complaint, which puts us at January 7th, or February 17th, time's flying. So we have another week to work on a response if needed. So I think the point that Susan makes is a good one. It does seem that there's a distinction between approving and making public. And so maybe we should take a week and,
Look, I've got
Fair
no
enough.
problem, I've got no problem approving minutes, Justin,
Yeah.
but think about this. What is the purpose of this complaint?
To bust your chops.
Yeah, because, I mean, how do you know it wasn't approved? How do you know it wasn't approved? I mean, in other words, you're saying, you're saying something, I can't even think of a proper analogy. You're basically shouting at the wind. You're saying, I think I might be able to catch you in something that you didn't do. And I wanna file against you in the hopes that I did catch you. But the actual purpose of the open meeting law is for the ultimate dissemination of public records and public meetings. So the net result is the public is not gonna have any more information than they did previously, okay? We approve, okay, great, we approve it, and it's still not distributed. Okay, this is strictly a sounding board for Mr. Silbert to prove to everybody that he's able to get you on another thing. And by the way, we had this discussion at the select board previously, and I mentioned it to town council. Town council didn't say, "Oh, no, quick, you better approve it." We sent them the document.
well, could we just, they haven't seen this specific open meeting law complaint. So since we have another week to work on it, why don't we get their opinion on it?
Why don't we just approve the minutes?
Why don't you just approve the
Why don't
minutes,
you just approve the minutes?
and they can, he has no complaint then, you do have approved minutes.
Yeah.
And you can just say, we've approved the minutes.
The only-
And
the only
honestly,
thing is-
approving minutes in a timely manner makes sense, because if you wait, I can't speak for you guys, but I would
forget.
have a hard time remembering
Exactly.
everything that I said in October. So I would want to approve the minutes sooner, so I had a clearer memory. Whether they're released or not, completely a separate question. I'm not saying you're wrong, Steve. I completely agree with everything you said regarding his purpose in doing it. But that said, it doesn't mean it isn't a good idea to make sure you have all your meeting minutes approved, to get them done when you still remember what happened, whether they're released or not.
We'll have to call an executive session on the 17th or the 16th of February to approve these minutes.
Send notification to the two parties that were there.
Do we need to invite
No, you.
parties to approve minutes?
No, it was
No.
just between you two.
Yeah.
You're gonna mention their names.
Yeah.
I don't know, is that?
So
what
that's,
council said?
that's worth finding out from council.
Yeah, so I
That's
think
worth finding out.
we should approve.
But
if we have-
when you approve minutes, all right, when you approve the minutes, the people who were there,
Yeah.
say you approved last week's minutes today, whoever was here last week is not here, but you can still approve the minutes. This is what happened. This is
I-
your minutes. It's not their minutes.
I understand
It's
that,
not-
Right.
What if they
Probably,
completely lie in them or something
Yeah.
and misrepresent?
Well, then when they're put public, then they can object to it.
I think you should ask.
well,
because I would-
look, that, at a minimum, that the council should be asked that question, because you have to be very careful when you talk about using people's names. That's the reason why it's an executive session. So at a very minimum, when we reach out to council and find out if we can how are we gonna do that?
And I think, well, we have 5 sets of executive session minutes that need to be worked on. July 21st, October 4th, November 4th, November 17th, and February 2nd. So we have a lot to do.
Can you give
And
those dates?
July
Well,
21st,
I believe those are already had this discussion.
or the July 21st haven't been posted. They can't be because it's not ongoing legal matter, but they are not public. They're in draft form. October 4th, November 4th, November 17th, February 2nd.
Okay.
And it would also be a lot easier if we could have them approved before we need to release them, so that we're not, I mean, it's just the right thing to do. We have to do it. And I think, yeah, maybe there's some questions about how exactly it's done, but the sooner the better.
Agreed.
Okay, so we're
Yeah,
gonna,
but once we've done it, then that's the response, is we did it, and the issue's over.
fine, so we're gonna hold this for the, yes?
Is this an endless, you can just call any OML?
Sure.
He's filed 2 this week
Yeah.
and 2 public records requests.
Is this just, the AG doesn't get annoyed with like this continuum?
Actually, they do.
Reach out to the,
No, but when I say annoyed, isn't there some,
You
hey,
annoy
enough
us?
is enough?
They are looking into it. We've spoken to some representatives there.
You know, we've been discussing OMLs, I think, in almost every meeting that I've attended in the last couple of weeks, a couple of months.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Silly.
And then-
you know, you're humans, and we're all humans, we make mistakes. This is just nonsense. This is just, it's pathetic.
well, not only that, but if for some reason the AG decides to levy fines, the fines against the town could be substantial. You may be taking all your ARPA money and paying.
But I file an OML and the town has to pay a fine?
The town has to pay a fine, or the board member has to pay a fine, but the board member's covered under their insurance. But either way, the town pays for it. Listen, the
No,
town.
I think you're missing the question. Isn't there a way of stopping someone from constantly filing? I mean, isn't there a way of saying, you know, enough is enough, you reached your limit?
Well, I believe that, I'm getting a feeling that the Division of Open Meetings Law, whatever it's called, they've obviously identified a pattern of the folks that are doing it constantly. And I would assume that at some point they're going to get sanctioned. But right now, nobody's getting anything. All it's doing is wasting time. It's providing. Listen, you know what? If I was sitting home all day, it would give me something to do, right?
Can we agree though?
Play solid.
Can we agree though to schedule an executive session next week to approve minutes and not necessarily make them public, but approve them? Sounds like, to my understanding, none of the minutes will be made public, but approving them would be really good for everybody involved, and that can be our response to open meeting law.
However, let's just get confirmation from council that we do an executive session and we mention people's names. We have to.
Well,
we
it would be interesting because then we have various topics, like.
Yes.
So ask whether or not that's required, I guess. Because that would change the needs.
That's what I plan on doing. And by the way, tomorrow, at approximately 4:45 p.m., you are going, the Monterey Select Board is going to receive 8 open meeting law complaints from John Silver, because John Weingold took down the dates. Now, he's right now typing them to John Silver, and they're going to write them up. So.
What's that?
With 5 or 8.
What did you say?
5.
What did you say?
I tell him that we should get prepared for 5 more open meeting law complaints. I'd say it's 8, but he'll correct.
It's actually formal.
Written by John Silver, because now these are great gotcha ones. I would, yeah. There's some meat on the bone over there. It's gonna really tie this town up in a little bit of a knot. That's good.
Well, maybe you should start following the law. Stop complaining about following the laws and start following them. And then there probably wouldn't be any complaints filed, maybe.
People who live in.
Why don't you follow the law?
Yeah, so like frivolous lawsuits, that's following the law, right?
Not showing up to meetings.
Not showing up for meetings, not signing papers. I'm turning into Don Coburn.
Please don't.
Okay, sorry. Let's continue with the minutes, shall we? Red is Justin and purple is Steven. Do you have a copy of yours?
Yes, I do.
Let's see. Purple is, okay, so I should change agree to suggested in the personal business, you added long-term options including, that's fine. I actually did say that, Steve suggested a committee of no less than 5 people to avoid issues if one person doesn't show. I did say as currently happening with the select board and finance committee, because that is the case. We have been dealing with the ongoing boycott of John Weingold, and the finance committee has been dealing with the boycott of John Colbert. Although it seems to be pretty much over. So I did say that, so I'd like that kept in,
So,
because that's.
let's just get rid of the parentheses then.
Okay,
I will cross out
no problem.
if you said, because the parentheses confuse me as to. I'd be confused.
Okay, so we're doing your copy?
Sure.
Okay.
I started, because I removed, I said keep in, but I crossed out the parentheses.
So, yeah, I just wrote, after some discussion, it was agreed, because, it wasn't just agreed. I mean, to keep the committee at, 3 people, and then you put mission of the committee, that's fine. Okay, let's see what else.
Steve reiterated their concerns and said they're not in favor of additional money transfers. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to make that, I made that clear to the public that we weren't gonna do it, and and that didn't show up, so I wanted to make sure that that was there. The motion we the expenditure in question is transfer of money from the contract. Okay, you just want to be more specific, the vote was for the allocation of 38,000 contract reserve fund to be awarded to Justin would like to know whether the expenditure is subject to an anti-ADM procurement law. Okay.
What is the line name of the HR line? Is it called shared HR?
In the budget,
Yeah.
Now it's, well, I think now it's called HR consultant and.
Because I put that in here, I just wanna make sure that it's right, whatever.
Yeah, it was like shared HR consultant.
shared HR manager.
Oh,
Shared HR.
Man.
So I'm just gonna add that into the.
Motion was made, 11 Wilson to contact council to get more information on human resource monies allocated at town meeting, and whether it might be legally spent hiring a consultant. Oh, we already did that. Most of the board that are, how, that are, Maya, I changed it to, from have to has. I was surprised you didn't get that. Has canceled full the scheduled, I added scheduled, full board meeting, management of challenging, whatever. Yeah, so I just moved scheduled to the beginning of the sentence, due to an anonymous complaint that they received with documents about the ongoing investigation. Melissa stated that, there have been some employees that were unhappy about it, and then you want the record reflect that anybody who sends an anonymous papers to anyone is a coward. You stated that if you're committed to your local and just, yeah. Okay, so that's agreed, let's wait until the investigation was over and try again. And then,
I'm fine removing mine, because I think yours gets to the same point.
Okay.
So I'll just cross out my red and keep your purple.
yeah, I don't know why that.
If that works for you.
Okay, you took out very uncomfortable, that's
I
fine.
was only slightly uncomfortable.
Ah, so, uncomfortable is fine. So I just, clarified that I told you there'll always be negative letters direct to select board. Oh, okay, yeah, so I guess I left the felt compelled in there.
So what if we just rework it and write, Justin read Michael Zister's letter of resignation, Steve had no objection.
That's fine, so so that's, okay, so my sentence is actually at the end of yours.
Does that work?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I
You just,
reworded it to Steve's request of all town employees that you be available to serve the public during your posted office hours. The motion was made to have Justin speak with the clerk about the topic. The motion was seconded and approved 2-0.
I gotta know that. Okay, I changed it to Wednesday. And that's it. So I make a motion to approve the minutes of 2/2/22.
Second,
I vote yes.
yes.
I don't want to go above there, so he's not gonna vote.
How did that conversation go?
What?
How did that?
I talked to the clerk, I think that same evening, and I believe she was gonna get back to you, to the board. So I'll follow up.
Let me
Back
get
to
this
work.
straight, so.
Because she didn't show up for her hours.
Well, as requested, I expressed the sentiment, and
So
I
I'm
can
just,
follow up. I
as
can
an,
follow up.
as an
I can follow up.
employee, shouldn't some action be taken?
Well, I
Because
think-
if I wasn't following the rules, you guys would be on me like,
Well, any discussion of
Say
a
that-
particular employee has to be done in executive session, that's my understanding. If it's not,
So, well, actually,
it's performance, I think.
actually, it's not the character or reputation, it's the, you can talk about people's job performance. However, I'm not here to talk about job performance. All I'm just saying is, let me reiterate, Justin, and I think you agree with me, that if you post meeting minutes, if you post hours, public relies on it, right? And
well,
so-
she referred me to an email in which she had requested change her hours, which the select board never responded to, and she was going to send that to the board, and I'm not sure what happened since then.
Okay, so we just need, this is what we need.
Well, she referred me to an email to
Okay.
which the select board didn't respond, so that needs to be.
So that means
So-
you didn't vote it was okay. I mean.
I know,
any-
I'm just saying, she referred me to an email, which she sent to the select board, which the select board didn't respond to, and so maybe we should respond to that email.
So I have a few emails that you haven't responded to either. Should we
Okay,
go over
So
those?
here's what I want, here's what I just want, and let me know if you agree with me. I just would like to know what her posted hours are. Okay, and we're gonna say, that works, it doesn't work. If we do say it works, then she should be at those posted hours, right?
Okay.
Just like,
She has posted hours.
I will,
all right,
I'll
but
touch
I
base.
just wanna
But
confirm
you're
that those.
making it, but you're making it sound like she can change them again. And so again, I would have an issue with that because when I asked to change mine, there was all kinds of craziness. You
So
have
when I-
posted hours, nothing has been approved to be changed. And if any other employee was doing that here, they'd be written up.
I understand that. My thing is this, I wanna know if the posted hours that are currently posted are the posted hours that she believes that she's following. If she's under the understanding she's got different posted hours than the public has, then there's a problem, and we need to determine what ultimately the posted hours are.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll touch
So,
base, like I
If
said.
they are what she's got on her door,
So they're Tuesday 1 to 5 and Wednesday 9 to 8.
So I'll touch base with her,
Okay.
and
we'll
go
put that
from
on the agenda for next session. If there's time.
When is the executive scheduled for executive session? 16th, what time?
I'll put it at the end of the agenda so that you don't have to go back into the public
Okay.
or open meeting.
Yeah, we have to start early.
Or I could put it at the beginning. I guess it's gonna depend on if you have to invite the people. If you have to invite people, it should be at the beginning so you can give them a date and time.
So let me find out from the council what, how many people are gonna be there. But, in general, we'll probably work with the same, hourly parameters. Okay. So don't leave the country, John, you wanna be around for that one.
Any other public comments yet?
All right, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Have
We
we,
don't have
have we
comments?
reached comments and questions from the public?
Oh, I'm sorry, comments and questions from the public? Thank you.
Nope.
Ask
Bye
us-
is good.
ask us something.
I have a question for Justin. Can you let me know who those texts were between so that I can finish the public records request? The one.
Received.
Received them. So you respond to the email.
Received.
I'm not sure if that meant like received, you're gonna answer me.
I received your email.
Oh, but are you gonna answer me?
I received your email.
So you're not gonna tell me who the texts are with?
I will respond to any public records requests as required by law as a, so.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
Everybody, yes?
yes.
Yes.